So I will, as far as housekeeping goes, there is a Q&A box up at the top, or I'm not sure where it's out on your screen, but use the Q&A throughout the presentation. I'll be monitoring that and I'll try to answer all of your questions. If I'm not able to answer a specific question, we'll do some research and get back to you. So utilize that Q&A and I will try and monitor that as we go. Let's go ahead and get started. So first off, just kind of, in the news, we hear that Social Security is bankrupt, that it's out of money, that it's underfunded, that it's going to disappear, blah, blah, blah. The horror stories go on. Just some of the facts. So it is a pay-as-you-go system. So the taxes that are collected from workers today are used to pay, retirees' benefits. And currently, we have less coming in than we have going out, which is not great. That's a bad situation to be in. If you think about your family checkbook, if you have more money going out than you have coming in, then you have a problem. So there is a $2.8 trillion trust fund that is used currently to make up that shortfall. That trust fund's invested in, government debt, U.S. Treasuries, so it does earn interest. But the reality is we do have a problem. So the current trust fund's expected to run out in 2033. So a few years from now, and at that point, if Congress doesn't make any changes, the program would only be able to pay 77% of scheduled benefits. So that's probably the worst case scenario, that Congress does nothing, 2033 hits, trust funds out, everybody's benefits are cut by 23% or so. So why the problem? In 1960, we had 5 workers per beneficiary. Now we have a little less than 3. Obviously, our demographics are changing, population's aging, there's lower birth rates, so this problem's only going to continue, and people are living a lot longer. So when Social Security first started, there was a good percentage of people that died before they were eligible to receive benefits. So changes are going to have to be made. I wouldn't stress too much about this. Like I said, the worst case scenario, benefits get cut by 25% or so. My guess is Congress will figure it out. There's lots of things that could be done. I've listed some of those on the right there. Payroll taxes could be increased. Currently, we're charging 12.4% on wages up to 176,000. That's, I've heard that a 1 or 2% increase there would kind of solve the problem. I don't like tax increases, but something like that maybe could be done. There's been some talk on raising that cap, that $176,000 cap. So once a wage earner gets to that point, Social Security turns off for both the employee and the employer. So that cap could be increased. It's been increasing, a little bit over time each year. They could take it away. They could raise it higher. There's been some talk that they'll have it stop, and then maybe have it turn back on at a higher interval, like maybe 300,000 or 400,000 of wages. Something could be done there. We could also extend Social Security taxes to other types of income. Currently, it's only on self-employment income or wages. It could be applied to investment income or other non-wage income. Could raise the full retirement age. That's probably a given that will happen with life expectancies increasing. I think that only makes sense. We could means test it. I really hate that one, but that is an option. Means testing benefits doesn't seem right to me. I mean, if you kind of penalize the people that prepare well for retirement, that doesn't sit well with me, but that is an option. And probably not feasible, but another potential option is to invest the trust fund in equities. Currently, it's only invested in U.S. government bonds, U.S. Treasuries, pretty much. So lots of ways to fix it. The biggest challenge is probably just getting Congress and politicians to actually deal with it without backlash. And my guess is that won't happen till we're kind of right up against that trust fund running out. So anyway, if Congress can get their act together and kind of work on it sooner, I think the pain will be less. But chances are that we'll figure this out. It's too important of a program to let it fail or let it not work. So so if you have questions on that or comments, put those in the chat. I'll monitor those and I can address them. Okay, so that we'll just kind of get that out of the way. The next few things I want to talk about is when you should start receiving benefits. So there's several options here. The earliest you can receive benefits is at age 62, and that's for regular benefits. If you're widowed or then you might be able to get benefits as early as age 60, or if you have dependent children and you're younger than 60, you can get benefits for dependent children. So there's this term called full retirement age, and it's 66 to 67, depending on what year you were born. So because the population was aging, Congress did change this and raise it from 66 to 67. And instead of doing just a clean cutoff, they made it complicated like they always do. So I'll get into that table in just a minute, but there's really no one size fits all. So it's really a personal decision, and there's a lot of factors that go into the timing of benefits. And when you decide to take benefits can significantly affect your overall retirement income. And if you're married, the joint timing of your benefits and spousal benefits, which we'll talk about, it really makes a big impact over your lifetime. So you want to make sure that you're thinking about this and that you make an informed decision and you don't just listen to, your brother-in-law at the barbecue that says you should take it at any given age. So some of the things to consider, you need to understand when your full retirement is and how your benefit calculation works. You should know about the effect if you take benefits early and if you delay. So there's some delayed retirement credits available. We'll get into those. Obviously, if we knew how long you were going to live, planning would be really easy. Like we could pinpoint exactly what the claiming strategy would be to get the most out of your Social Security dollars or benefit. But since we don't know that, you kind of have to think about what's your expected lifetime, what's your family situation like, what's your health like, all those things come into play. What's your spouse's life expectancy? Obviously, if you want to keep working, that impacts your benefits and can play a role there. We'll get into that. What other sources of retirement income do you have? Is Social Security, do you need to start receiving benefits in order to make your retirement plan work, or do you have some flexibility because you've saved well or you have other income sources in retirement? And of course, income taxes. So I am a CPA that taxes is part of what we do. We are trying to minimize those for our clients as much as possible. So it is something to think about, though. And of course, how your spouse is affected. Okay, so let's look at this table here. Everybody can find the year they were born and identify their full retirement age. So like I was saying before, it used to be age 66. Congress got kind of thinking ahead a little bit for once and determined that they needed to raise it, but they didn't want to just raise it all at once, so they got tricky and gave us these 2-month increments based on the year you were born. So once you get past age, if you were born after 1960 or later, then your full retirement age is 67. If you fall in any of those other windows, your full retirement age is listed there. And this is an important kind of pinpoint because it determines the full unreduced Social Security benefit. So we'll get into the calculation, but it's kind of the starting point in determining how much you're going to receive is this full retirement age benefit. So how are your benefits calculated? So Social Security takes the highest 35 years of your earnings that were subject to Social Security taxes, so that's wages and self-employment income, and indexes those and then averages them out. So they index them for inflation. and averages them out. Now, in order to qualify for benefits, you need to have worked 40 quarters or 10 years if it's consecutive, but it's really by quarter. So you need to have worked into the system, paid Social Security taxes, either through wages or self-employment income for 40 quarters. That gets you eligible, but then they use a 35-year average of your highest earnings. And if you don't have 35 years, they do throw in zeros. So somebody that worked maybe 10 years, they're eligible, but they've got 10 years of earnings history, and then they have 25 years of zeros. That goes into the average wages for the calculation. So here's just a quick example. If somebody's full retirement age is 66, they have a full benefit. Remember, that's the starting point when you're looking at these calculations. Their full retirement age benefit is $1,800 per month. They could start as early as age 62. However, it would be reduced. It's about an 8% reduction, not exactly at first, but about it averages out to about an 8% reduction. So that benefit would be $1,350. If they took benefits at age 62, about 25 to 30% less per month at age 60 by taking benefits at age 62 compared to their full retirement age of 66. Now, they do receive benefits for a longer period of time, so you need to kind of think through this, and each case is different. So everybody has a different life circumstance, and spouse might be involved, different age gaps, all those things come into play, like we talked about earlier. So if we kind of fast forward this a little bit, you do also earn delayed retirement credits, and those are 8% per year as well, starting with your full retirement age benefit. So if you waited until age 70, then you would be able to receive $2,376 a month instead of that $1,800. And this delayed retirement credit is calculated by month. So each month that you wait up through age 70, you're earning a delayed retirement credit for that month. Now, there's no delayed retirement credits if you wait past age 70. So if you might as well take benefits at least by age 70. So, and if we put the full spectrum together, if we compare waiting until age 70 to starting early at age 62, it's 76% more benefits by waiting. And if we kind of think about what we gave up during those years, those 8 years, it would have been $130,000 of benefits that were given up. And the way I look at this is you kind of bought yourself a bigger payment, and that bigger payment lasts over your lifetime and potentially over your spouse's lifetime, which we'll kind of get into how the spousal benefits work and how the widower benefits work. Okay. So the reality of people retiring is we're all living longer on average. So according to the National Center for Health Statistics, 65-year-old man can expect to live on average up to 83, and a 65-year-old woman to 85. So women tend to live a little bit longer on average. The next statistic's even crazier. So 1 out of 4 retirees will live past age 90, and 1 out of 10 will live past age 95. With medical advancements and just general education about health, these numbers will probably only increase. And so one thing to think about when you retire, your biggest risk is not dying. It's actually living a long, long time and outliving your assets or your ability to fund your lifestyle needs and all of those things. So you could look at Social Security potentially as a longevity insurance, because Social Security does offer cost of living adjustments, and whatever benefits, whenever you decide to start taking benefits, kind of locks it in there. And then there's a cost of living adjustment that goes on throughout your lifetime. So if you live a real long time, you could look at Social Security as longevity insurance, kind of a protection against outliving your assets. Going to take a second here and see if there's any questions. No questions in there yet. So as a reminder, put your questions in and I'll try to address them as we go here. Okay. So how does working affect your Social Security benefits? So if you're under your full retirement age, then earnings from a job will reduce your Social Security benefits potentially. If you're once you reach full retirement age, there's really no impact. So you can work and earn as much as you want, no impact to your Social Security benefits. So that impact before your full retirement age works like this. So for every $1 or for every $2 that your earnings exceed this limit for 2025, it's 23,400, so not very high. For every $2 that you're over that limit, then your benefits are reduced $1 until they're all the way phased out. The year that you reach your full retirement age, they give you a little bit of a limit, a little bit of a higher earnings limit, and that's just because people don't always retire right at the end of the year. You know, sometimes it's in the middle of the year. They don't want to penalize you too badly for retiring in, say, May, or June or something. So the limit's a little bit higher, and then the phase out doesn't kick in as fast. But after your full retirement age, doesn't matter. You can have as much earnings as you would like. And this is really earned income. It's not investment income or passive rental income or anything like that. It's earned income from a job or a self-employment activity. So typically, if your benefits are reduced, you don't lose them. What happens to that reduction is the Social Security system kind of stores that, and once you reach your full retirement age, they will add that back in over your expected lifetime. So you'd get a little bit of an increase on your monthly benefit, and over your expected lifetime. But if you're coming up to that limit or you really want to work during Social Security, it's kind of best practice not to claim benefits if they're just going to be withheld and to wait, because then you can guarantee yourself the delayed retirement credits and you don't have to rely on Social Security to get that adjustment done correctly over your expected lifetime. Okay, another big factor is what sources of retirement income will you have? So Social Security is not meant to be the only source, and it's probably not enough to have a comfortable retirement. So you should be kind of planning ahead, but are you planning on working? Are you going to have any job earnings? Do you have any pensions available? And then what savings and investments do you have? And all of these things coordinated together should help give us information on when the right claiming strategy is for you, to both maximize your benefits and to minimize your taxes. So your benefits will most likely, I mean, will maybe be taxable. So this is kind of a pain point for a lot of clients I work with. They'll say, "Hey, I already paid a lot of taxes. Now I'm going to start receiving Social Security benefits, and they tax me again." And they look at this as a double taxation. And while taxes do hurt, I always encourage them to look at their benefit statement from the Social Security office, and they do calculate your cumulative taxes that you've paid into the Social Security system. And the benefit that you're going to receive over your lifetime far exceeds any of the payments that you made into the system and the taxes that you might pay on the dollars when you receive them. So this tax is also used to pay out benefits. So it is helping a little bit in that shortfall. And that's one thing Congress could adjust as well. I know President Trump has talked about removing the tax on Social Security income, which could happen. It's not in the latest uh, big, beautiful bill, is what he's calling it, that went through the House. But he has talked about that before. I think it's a big hurdle, and where Social Security's already kind of has that shortfall, I doubt anything will happen, but that is a possibility. But the taxes work in kind of these tiers. So if your income is less than the 25,000, if you're single, then you don't have any tax on your Social Security income. And if you look down there at that star, it's not your total income. It's this weird calculation. So it's your combined income, which equals your adjusted gross income plus any non-taxable income, and then half of your Social Security benefits income. So if that's under 25,000, or under 32,000 if you're married filing joint, then you don't have any taxes due on your Social Security income. If it's in between that range, and doesn't exceed the 34 or the 44, then up to 50% of your benefits are taxable. And then once you get over those two limits, then 85% of your benefits are taxable. Sometimes people get hung up on those big percentages. That's not the tax rate, that's the amount of the Social Security benefits that get taxed at whatever rate your income falls for that year in your tax bracket. So let's see. I think I'm out of order here. I did want to talk about state taxes, so I'm going to jump ahead a bit. So the states all have different tax laws, and this map kind of shows some of the states. So if you look at the blue states, or kind of periwinkle colored states, those are all the states that don't tax Social Security income at all. The green states don't have an income tax, so those ones are fine. The purple states, so North Dakota, Minnesota, Nebraska, and Rhode Island, West Virginia, those, and Vermont, it looks like, those states tax Social Security benefits. The yellow states, which if you notice, Utah, we're one of those yellow states, they also tax Social Security benefits, but then there's a credit that's given to offset some of the tax impact for lower income retirees. So this is one thing that we could work with our state legislatures on. We're one of only a handful of states that tax Social Security benefits. And the state tried to deal with this by offering this state tax credit. But if you can look here, it doesn't kick in unless your income's very low. So in 2025, they did increase the limits for these credits, the income limits. But if you look at kind of the single filers, once income starts reaching 45,000, 75,000 for married filing joint, then the credit phase out starts to begin. And once you're up to 90,000 for married filing joint or 54,000 for single filers, then you're not eligible for any credit, which just means that all of your benefits are taxable, just like they are for your federal tax return. So the credit, Utah state tax rate's 4.55%. That's the amount of the credit. And then when you're in that phase out range, the credit's reduced 2.5% for each dollar that's over the phase out, the bottom range of the phase out. So not fun, but Utah does tax. They tax the Social Security benefits, especially once you get out over these income limits. So I'm gonna go back to these other slides. So spousal benefits, the decision on when to claim your own benefits will most likely impact your spouse as well. So what you need to look at is what's the maximum household income and survivor's income strategy for claiming benefits, because if you don't coordinate these, you can leave some money on the table. So it's really thinking about what's the combination of claiming ages. It's also thinking about what's your joint life expectancy, because even if somebody had a lower life expectancy because of terminal illness or just lower longevity within their family, that doesn't mean, like, the first inclination would be, hey, I should just go claim benefits now to get the most out of my own benefits while I'm alive, but that might impact how much your spouse gets. So the right way to look at this is really to think about a joint life expectancy and then think about combination of claiming ages and coordinating benefits together. So we'll skip ahead. How the spousal benefit works. So it's 50% of your spouse's full retirement age benefit or your own. If you've worked and have earned a benefit that's more, you don't get both. You just get one or the other. And what's nice about the spousal benefit is you don't have to work at all. So if you've been married and your spouse worked, they give you credit for that and you can receive that 50% benefit of their full retirement age. And remember how I said that full retirement age is kind of the starting point. So the way these spousal benefits work, if we go back to our $1,800 a month example for our primary worker, so the primary earning spouse was $1,800 a month for full retirement age benefit. The starting point for the spousal benefit would be half of that, or $900. And then it would be reduced potentially if the spouse claimed before their own full retirement age. One unique thing about spousal benefits is you don't receive a delayed retirement credit if you wait past full retirement age. The other thing that you have to remember is in order to claim the spousal benefits, the primary earner has to be claiming their own benefits. So this is where age gaps, age differences come into play here. If you have a spouse that's, a couple, maybe 4 years older, and the primary earner's 4 years older, delaying actually works perfectly because that spouse can delay until they're around age 70, and then once they start claiming benefits, that'll free up the spousal benefit so that younger spouse can claim at their full retirement age. And if there's a shorter age gap, then it means you might not want to wait. The primary earner might not want to wait till age 70 because they would just be leaving spousal benefits on the table because those don't grow. Their own benefit would continue to grow, but the spousal benefit wouldn't grow. So couples that are the same age, they may, usually the best strategy is to claim benefits at full retirement age, and then that way they're not leaving any spousal benefits on the table. So I'll take a moment here and check the questions. Okay, so there's a question here. Are there any plans in legislation to address Social Security running out in 2034? Haven't seen anything yet. We've talked about some of the things they could do, but Congress is having a hard time working together, and they'll probably wait until 2033 and then deal with it. But hopefully they can deal with it sooner. So thanks for the question. Keep the questions coming. Okay, so survivor benefits. There's kind of two types of survivor's benefits. They can be received as early as age 60. Those are kind of the widower benefits. Once you get into the older ages, the survivor benefit works like this. So if you have a couple, one spouse dies, the remaining spouse will receive the higher of the two benefits. Whoever, if it was their own, they'll continue getting their own. The other spouse's benefits will stop. If it's the spouse who had the lower benefit, then they would step into the higher benefit and their own would stop. So whichever is the highest benefit's kind of the one that continues. Before age 60 is a little bit different. There's kind of several ways to figure that out. And if you have dependent children, there are some Social Security benefits available for them. And what's nice about that is even if you had your children older in life, there are some benefits available for children even while you're living. So that may be a reason to claim benefits earlier to free up those benefits for your dependent children, because that once they turn 18, those are unavailable unless they're disabled. Okay, so the choice is really yours. Here's some factors to consider if you want to take benefits early. So, obviously, if you need the Social Security income right away to make your retirement plans work, there's not a lot you can do strategy-wise there. What we help clients do is look at all their options, look at what they have saved, look at all their income, and help them come up with the plan that will give them the best chance and the highest probability of having a good retirement, and then also keeping the taxes as low as possible. So, another reason to claim benefits early, if you want to invest those monthly dollars, if you don't need them, but you want to set them aside as an investment, that's an option. I would kind of cautious against this in most cases, unless you have a really good outlook there. The government gives you an 8% guarantee on that, and it covers your entire life. So it's Social Security is really an annuity, if you think of it that way, and it's the cheapest, best annuity out there. So using it and thinking of it as a longevity insurance plan is probably the way I would encourage you to think of it. But that is an option. You want to delay having to take funds from other retirement vehicles. That kind of plays into that investment question. So what we can help you do is optimize with the resources that you have. We can help you come up with an optimal plan to meet your goals and whatever those goals are. And then if your spouse wants to delay taking benefits, So if you have two spouses that were both, high income earners, or they both earned around the same amount, they both have good benefits. One strategy is, maybe one spouse takes benefits closer to full retirement age, and then the other spouse might want to wait, and then that way you're kind of getting the best of both options. You need to kind of weigh in all factors if you do something like that. And then as far as delaying, if you want to buy yourself that higher retirement benefit for your entire lifetime and your spouse's lifetime, delaying probably makes sense. If you want to maximize survivor's income, if you plan to work longer up until full retirement age, there's really not a reason to go in and claim benefits before full retirement age. And then if you want to protect against longevity risk, which we've talked about. So how do you figure out where you're at? The Social Security has a good website, this www.ssa.gov, where you can go on and get your earnings history, you can get your estimate of benefits. They have some calculators on that website. You really can get some good information. We like to run an optimization in our software. So if you want that, we can offer that to you for free. All we need is for you to go onto this website, you and your spouse if you're married, and download your earnings history. And then we can plug that into our system, and we can look at when the optimal claiming strategy is for you, and then help you with just general guidance there, and hopefully help you with your retirement plan and managing your investments and the whole thing in the future. So I'd encourage you to get on and do that. They used to mail out the little green and white kind of booklet. It was a 2-page thing, or one big page folded in half. They don't really do that anymore. So the only way to go on there is to create an account at ssa.gov. And then as far as applying for benefits, you need to apply. You apply online on that same website. At least 3 months. I'd even maybe say 6 months before, not before you reach age 62, but before you want to start claiming benefits, at least 6 months before. And if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out to our office, where our advisors are happy to talk to you about your situation and kind of what you need to do there. So, and you always have to apply online. If you have anything weird come up, then they'll schedule you a phone call or an in-person visit. Some of the things that hold this up, if you've had multiple marriages, or sometimes even if they don't know you're married, believe it or not, the government doesn't know that you're married, so you need to provide marriage licenses and things like that, and there's just kind of an application process there. Medicare, it's kind of the same system. So if you've applied for Medicare, you'll be in the system and things will go a lot quicker. If you haven't applied for Medicare, typically, you might be doing that at the same time. But Medicare, you need to make sure you're aware of the rules by age 65 and a couple months before age 65. So like 6 months before age 65, you should probably be thinking about Medicare. Even if you plan on working and you're covered by your employer's insurance, you should still look at your Medicare options and just kind of make sure that you're doing things right. There's a pretty big penalty if you don't apply for Medicare on time. Okay, I think that's it for today. So I'll watch the questions. Thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you learned something new, and reach out to us. We'd love to sit down with you and look at your situation and be able to help you there. Remember, our advisors, we all work on maximizing your wealth and minimizing your taxes, and really just giving you the peace of mind so that you can have a great retirement and not have to worry about the money so much. You've worked hard. You should be able to go out and do the things that you want to do with your family, and we'll help you to optimize the resources that you have there. So we've got our phone number and our email address, and if you have specific questions that you want me to answer today, just go ahead and type those in the chat. We'll kind of hang out for a few minutes, and have a great rest of your day. Okay, we got a question coming in. What happens if both spouses work and have similar income levels? Do they each get benefits individually, separately? Are spousal benefits still involved at all? Great question. So remember, we talked about the spousal benefits available. If your own benefit is higher, then you're going to get your own benefit instead of the spousal benefit. So in our example, we had $1,800 a month. If the spouse, so that means that the spousal benefit would be up to $900 a month if that spouse waited until their full retirement age. So if their own benefits any higher than that, let's say it's 1,500, then they would get the 1,500 instead of the spousal benefit. Spousal benefit wouldn't really come into play there. There used to be a few loopholes like a file and suspend strategy, and you could get some spousal benefits now, but let yours keep growing. All those kind of loopholes have been closed by the Social Security system, so we don't really have those anymore. So yeah, it's either your own or the spousal, whichever's bigger. But great question. Keep them coming. I'd love to answer a couple more. Another couple questions coming in. Um, will there be a recording? I believe so. You can reach out to us on that. Just send an email to wealthadvisors@squire.com and we'll get you a recording. I think they usually post these on YouTube or somewhere like that. Another question, when do you have to apply for Medicare Part B? I am retiring at the end of the year. So yeah, good, really good question. Medicare is one you don't want to be late on because there's a penalty that kind of sticks with you for the rest of your life. So Medicare Part B, you have to retire or you have to apply for the earlier of when you turn age 65 or when you lose benefits. But it's kind of the best practice when you're coming up to age 65, then you should really start thinking about this. You might have already applied for Part A if you're above age 65, and so you're in the system. And if you stayed on a work plan past age 65, then you need to let the Medicare office know 3 to 6 months before you lose that, you retire and lose that employer covered in insurance, and then you'll jump on Medicare. So 3 to 6 months before you either turn 65 or lose your qualified insurance through your employer or some other plan. So good question. And the nice thing about Medicare, it's best to work with an agent because there's supplemental policies available and prescription plans available and all these things. And working with an agent doesn't cost you anything. Medicare provides the agents, whether you use them or not. So it's always great to work with an agent because they know the intricacies of all the rules, and they'll help you stay on track. They'll also kind of sit down with you and look at, do you travel often? Which doctors are you seeing? Which prescriptions are you on? What's the best supplemental plan that fits your needs? Because Medicare covers about 80% of kind of your normal Medicare or medical needs. And then that 20%, you can either cover that yourself if you don't get a supplement plan, or you can buy a supplement plan that helps to fill in that 20%. And there's two kind of tracks there. There's a government track and there's a kind of private insurance track, and the agent will help you based on your circumstances, guide you in which one is best. So we've got some agents that we like and work with and send our clients to often. So if you need a referral, reach out to us and we'll get you a referral. So great question. Okay, one more question here. Are there other time-based to-do items that need to happen with a specific timeline as you approach 65, especially if you plan to work until closer to 67? So really good question. Thinking ahead is always great, and that's where hiring an advisor really makes a difference because the advisor will, clue you into the specific ages and timelines and guide you through this process. But if you're planning on working till age 67, really there's only when you get close to age 65, you should apply for Medicare Part A, that's the hospital insurance. And then you should look at Part B and decide if Part B is a better option for you than whatever insurance you're on now through work, or maybe you're covered by a spouse's work or something like that. You should always compare. You don't have to go on Medicare at age 65 if you're covered by a qualified insurance somewhere else. But it's always good to look at it because it might be able to save you some money. Um, and maybe it's better insurance. You just never know though. If you have a spouse and they're relying on your employer covered insurance because maybe they're younger, then that might go into the decision as well, because Medicare is individual. So if both spouses turn 65 at the same time, well, then you could both go on it. But if one turns 65 and then maybe one's a little bit younger, that younger spouse would need to get coverage somewhere else to have health insurance. They wouldn't be able to go on Medicare till they were age 65. So, but that's a good question. Always good to think ahead and work with an advisor. Advisors know these rules and can help guide you. They know your situation. They can help guide you in the right choices. All right. Well, thank you for your time today. If we didn't get to your question or you still want to ask one, reach out to us. Happy to help you. And then if you want that free analysis, go to ssa.gov, download your earnings record, and make an appointment and with one of our advisors, and we can sit down and do a free Social Security analysis for you and hopefully help you in other ways. So have a great day and a great summer.